Beautiful. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening, my friend Colin. I'm so happy that we're here together. I'll give some people a little bit of a chance to pop on line here. We have a continuation of, this will be our third week now, really continuing in discussing how to stand in your power, how to step in your power, how powerful are you, and where does that begin, right? And we talked a lot about, incorporating a lot about how this goes into understanding the hologram. And we're moving today into really, really being mindful. That's such a overused word, mindful. It's not my favorite, but it's understanding that it's going beyond what mindfulness is. It's going beyond what the power of thought is. It's what is the power of no thought? How is thought like? Where does thought come from? And how are we powerful in that? Um, that that knowingness of the unknown is how I guess I look at that. Welcome, Colin. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about all of this. It's always my favorite thing. So I have my coffee. I'm all ready to rock and roll. So
Yeah, it's important to understand the context of what we're talking about. We're talking about taking back the power of your soul. And the soul is a field of energy, electromagnetic energy. And the electric energy manifests as thoughts in our reality. And the magnetic energy manifests as emotions in our consciousness here. And it's just a question of understanding the fractal nature of the universe, because they're layers and layers of the same thing, but with different manifestations of the same thing. And in taking back the power of your soul, you have to take back the power of the electromagnetic energies within your soul.
mm,
And so taking back your thought energy is taking back the power of the electrical energy, because the electric, waves of the universe manifest as thoughts, and magnetic waves manifest as emotions. So in taking back our thought power, we will then take over the power of our electrical energies in our soul bodies.
mhm.
Um, so what is right thinking? That's the question everyone should be asking. What is the way to think correctly? And of course, we have different layers of consciousness on our planet. We have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and then we have the God conscious mind, or the conscience. And so we have these different layers of energy, and what we think about manifests what we experience in our reality field. So if you're thinking the same thoughts every day and having the same thoughts, you're going to experience the same things that you're thinking about.
Over and over again.
And people have got into this cycle. Um, it's a self-defeating cycle where they only think about the things that they can see and hear and smell and touch and taste. So, but they don't think about the things they don't see, and they don't smell, and they don't touch, and don't taste. So, we are sensitized towards this being um, of through our senses, that we only sense what is there, but we have very little sense of what is not there.
We're so dependent on our physicality, right? We're so like these are my hands, I touch with them, these are my eyes, I see with them, right? And even so much as thinking about, like, this is the most bizarre thing, and I'll show you like an idea of thought, right? I had been imagining in my mind, wouldn't it be nice to have like a backup microphone in case something happens to my microphone? And I thought, and I pictured this microphone, and it's because I'd pictured microphones in my head before or looked at them in pictures. And a package arrived the other day, and a friend of mine had a brand new microphone. It was exactly the one that I pictured. And she said, "You didn't ask for a microphone. I don't know that you need one, but I had this one." And I thought, who doesn't need a backup microphone? And I thought, wow,
Yeah, yeah,
wow,
and it works very well.
yes, it worked. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So,
and so how do we take back the power of our thinking?
mhm,
Okay. And way to get back the power of your thinking is to think about the things you don't think about,
mhm,
or the things that you don't know about, because it's the unknown that keeps people in fear here, because they won't go out and um, uh, go into the frontier of the unknown.
yeah,
So if we keep getting fed fearful thoughts and anxious thoughts about COVID and vaccines and different things in our environment that keep us in a fear mode, we get captured by that information, and that removes our power because it obsesses us. We become obsessive about this the fear energy. So we have to look behind what is causing this fear. We have to see what we don't see in order to understand what we are seeing, because it's not what we see that's important, it's what's behind what we don't see, what we see, that is important. So people need to start thinking about the things they don't think about and not the things they think about.
and everyone's going to go, well, how do I know what I'm not thinking about? Right? Like, how how do you know what you're not thinking about? That's like, people are going to go, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then my brain is going, okay, so let's see, if we're stuck in the magnetic, vibrations, right? And we're just repeating the same we're stuck in a time, it's like being stuck in a time loop. Do we need to amplify the electric? How do we, in people's minds, I mean, like, they're going to go, I don't understand. What does that mean? So what does it mean? Like, you can't pull over the thought curtain, Colin, right? Like, they're going, what am I not thinking?
Yeah. Well, let's take an example. When you look at a tree, what do you see? Do you see a tree, or do you see uh, something coming out of the ground that has branches, that has leaves, that has flowers, that has fruit? What are you not seeing? You're not seeing what's under the ground,
Yeah.
okay? And what's under the ground are the roots of that tree. So when you look at a tree, if you only see the tree as a tree and you don't see the branches that are underneath it, I mean, the roots that are underneath the tree, you're not really seeing the whole tree.
Right.
You're only seeing a part of the tree. So if you want to know what the tree looks like, go and find and research what root systems look like. Some people have roots that are systems that they're quite different from each other, most
Okay.
plants. Yeah, uh, and it's that root system that feeds the tree. So we're seeing the result of what that root system is doing. So when we look at a tree, we're not just seeing a tree, we're seeing a divine creation, something that is created in a divine way, in that it feeds itself, it nurtures itself, it resists itself, it breathes. Trees breathe. People don't understand this, but trees actually breathe.
Mhm.
And they give off oxygen. At daytime, they absorb carbon monoxide. So they're one of the biggest allies of humans on this planet, because They are producing oxygen and absorbing carbon monoxide. So when you see a tree, what do you see? Now, do you see how you have to think about things? You don't see just what you see. Think about what you're not seeing. And what you're not seeing is the things you can't see, which are below the ground, first of all. But then you're not seeing what's inside the tree, the capillaries that are taking moisture up from the roots and passing that on. It's like a vein system, the artery system of the tree that is pulling this information out. And so then you begin to get an understanding of what you're seeing is you're seeing something which is a divine creation, a tree. And people can't figure this out. They just want to see the tree, flower, and they see the pond, and they see things, but they don't see what they don't see.
Exactly. I love that explanation. That's so perfect. One of the things I like to do when I feel like I'm not seeing something. So it's like the same thing, you could sit with a tree or whatever the case may be, and I just close my eyes and I take a deep breath and I just say, "Show me." Right? And it takes some time to get into that quiet space of, being in between, right? It's of the no space. But but when you're able to get there and you just say, "Show me," it's amazing because you'll go even beyond the root system. You'll go even beyond the capillary system, and you'll go beyond all of this, and you'll feel the resonance, right?
Yeah,
And the movement, because we don't see, even if we could tear something open, or you do study how the root system works, um, it's hard to see that how it's alive, right? And it's like the alive piece and the movement that we're not seeing, the energy moving through all of that is a feeling, it's a sensation, right? It's
yeah,
not something we're going to visual. Some people can see it with their eyes. I mean, I'll give you that. Some people can, but most people can't. So it's a vibratory sensation.
yeah, yeah. And so we interpret our world by interpret. When you're interpreting something, you're using thought.
Mhm.
Okay, trying to make sense of whatever it is you've seen. But if you really want to see and think properly and interpret properly, you have to be able to understand what you're not seeing
Yeah.
and go beyond into what you're not seeing. And you take this COVID-19 thing, what aren't people seeing?
Oh gosh, don't get me started. Uh,
Yeah, it's the things they're not seeing that um, they should understand and begin to think about. What
mhm.
they're not seeing is what is called a one world government.
Right.
And a one world government means all the governments of the world work in unison with each other to suppress mankind and to take over the planet and to um, go into a eugenics program of killing off as many people as they can
Mhm.
uh, because they want to take back control. They're fed up with humans because humans are getting too smart for them now.
Yeah, yeah, we've raised our vibration and got our memories back, those pesky little memories, and galactic memories. So now what are they going to do? But that's exactly right. We have, even on the level, people uh, really only kind of see their basic government. They barely even see Congress. Instead, they kind of just see like a president, or maybe their local governor. These kinds of things, and they don't they don't look at the big picture and see the roots of the system,
Yeah,
that are actually pushing through, who's doing what, who's tied into where, and how is this structure, and this is what I say about alien machinery and mind control. It's been designed to be it's an inorganic organic structure. It's the most bizarre thing when you actually look at it, right? It's organic because we're using it or living in it, right? But it's inorganic because it's not human.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we have to start seeing with our God consciousness. We have to start thinking in our God conscious, the God mind. And to think in the God mind, you have to think of values. You have to think about standards. You have to think about what is right and true for me, not for everybody else.
Right.
The important thing to understand in thinking, I'm not thinking for everybody else. I'm only thinking for myself. Whether my thoughts can help other people, that's fine. I can write them down and post them on Facebook or whatever. But the the only person I'm thinking for is myself.
Mhm.
And if everybody thought for themselves and took responsibility for what they are thinking about, and then act on the thoughts that they are thinking about, not the thoughts that have been fed into them by the system,
Mhm.
because the system wants to dominate us. There's no doubt about it that this whole planet is designed to be indoctrinated with the same doctrines and dogma that keep suppressing humanity. And we are allowed very little freedom of thinking. You know, we have at the moment a lot of freedom of speech is being suppressed
Yeah.
because speech will be the outcome of what we're thinking. And if we are thinking with a God consciousness, it's going to upset a lot of people because they don't want us to think with a God conscious mind. They want us to think with their conscious mind, the conscious mind that has been indoctrinated with their doctrines and dogma, so that
Exactly.
we just repeat whatever we've been told to do and whatever we believe all the lies we've been told there, so we don't think for ourselves.
Hmm.
So we have to take responsibility for our thoughts, and this is a very hard thing to do, because most people live an automated kind of existence. They get up in the morning, they go have their coffee, they go, you know, have a coffee, and then they'll go have a shower, get dressed, go to work, do the same thing over and over and over and over again for days on end, for 5 days, and they have a 2-day break and they start repeating that. Now, what are you not thinking about when
All
you
kinds
do?
of things. Yeah. All kinds. It's just like driving. It's just like you go to work every day, you take the same route. You can almost do it with your eyes closed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like, and you realize how indoctrinated you really are, or embedded in the subconscious. There's a question Cindy is asking. Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness. Thank you for being here with us. This is so fun. Cindy is saying, Colin, do you know why people are awake to some things, but not other things like politics, SRA, and false spirituality?
in my view, it's just personal responsibility. You know, people are just irresponsible. They're not taking responsibility for what's happening to them, for what they're experiencing, how they experience it, who's doing what to them. The people play a blame game here. You know that everything is somebody else's fault. Somebody else did this to me.
My
We
mom
don't
did this. I was raised like that, you know?
we don't understand that what we are experiencing, we created. We create exactly what we are experiencing.
Mhm.
So, and it's because we don't take back responsibility for our thoughts. We think it's okay to think about nothing. Well, nothing in the sense that we're thinking thoughts that are being fed to us through the system that, oh, the traffic light's green, so I should go, and then it's red, then I must stop. And there's this street and that building and this building and those people and those people. So we go through an automated process of just living instead of thinking our way through life, you know, and feeling our way through life. And maybe next week we'll do the feeling one. That's also a very good one.
Yeah. That is a good one. There's a question I have thinking, as we're moving through the idea of being stuck in the subconscious, which means generally this is where we're thinking all the time, right? And this is, of course, where our thoughts are infiltrated. We've been discussing this. How then, how powerful then, this is, and I'd be curious to hear your take on this, like by suppressing our voices, knowing that sound vibration is powerful and that words are powerful. Uh, how then can we, because we're suppressed, whether it be typing or speaking, whatever, right? Because these sound vibrations are being suppressed, how then can we take our thoughts, because those are waves as well, but how can we take it out of the subconscious and make it just as loud as as speaking it or typing it, right? Like, is that even a possibility? Is that a vibration we can create without sound?
Yeah, absolutely. Because part of thought is imagination. Because uh, imagining is thinking about an image that doesn't exist, that you can't see, but you thinking about this image. And so when you think about that image, in fact, you are creating something. You're not creating nothing, you're creating something that exists in the universe. It's information, because what we exists in our minds is that metadata that I talked about a few weeks ago. It's the metadata behind the pictures that we see making this video, but Facebook and YouTube and all the other policemen out there will go and check the metadata, and they won't be looking at our faces. They will look at the metadata of what is being said, and so they analyze the metadata, and then they understand the picture,
Yeah.
and then they'll go investigate it. Well, we have to understand the metadata that we are producing in order to create our 3D reality. Now, we are creating this hologram through our thoughts and emotions. And if we understand the metadata, which is our thinking and our emotions that are creating the experiences we are having. Very important to understand that.
It is very important. And it's, something I think that is gonna that is important to repeat and even share in um, different words, because um, again, we're so stuck in our brains, we're so stuck in our physicality. Even our subconscious is still just a 3D world, right? And there are so many of us now learning how to connect into the soul. And I think that once we can actually connect into our soul, this moves us up at least that second harmonic universe, right? At least that takes us up into that next vibratory sensation, and we can then begin to start to uh, create from there, right? And so what is something somebody can do to say, okay, you know what, maybe I am being mind controlled, maybe I am looping in this mental construct and in stuck in my subconscious. What is something that, like the first step somebody can take besides saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot, I'm going to try to connect with my soul, right? That's kind of a first step, just saying that or thinking that. But what's something that that is simple to do to begin to learn to create from the soul body, right? Because and the souls are detached. We're trying to attach so many of them right now, right? And so what is
Yeah.
something they can do?
What I suggest to people is, if and imagination plays a big part of it. Imagination and faith, okay, are very important aspects to thinking, because imagination sees what is not seen physically. It's able to create pictures in the mind of something that exists and thinking, well, where does this thing exist? Okay. Do I want to attract that thing into my life? Do I want to give it to somebody else? What do I want to do with this thing that I'm imagining? So let's take manifestation, for instance. A lot of people want to understand how to manifest things for their lives. Think about it, visualize it, create this picture in your mind of what it is you want to experience. And then what you have to do is you have to see the pathway that you have to take, both thought-wise and emotionally, to get there, because everything is possible in the universe. There's no such thing as impossibilities. Thought, the power of thinking is the power of possibility. And when you begin to think right, you create more possibilities for yourself. So if you imagine something that you want, and imagine yourself walking that journey to make that thing manifest, okay, the universe, as you're thinking about it, will provide what is necessary for you to actually uh, complete that journey.
Mhm.
Because people are so resistant to the idea that the universe is a graceful universe. It's a giving universe. The universe wants us to be successful. It wants us to succeed. People have this negative view that, that I have to fight my way to get things in
Mhm.
life, to fight all these battles to get
Lo-
where I want. I have to
Love
work.
is hard. That's you hear that a lot. Love is hard. I don't, it's a battle.
Yeah. And so we keep fighting against ourselves, really, because we're not fighting against anybody else. We're just fighting ourselves and resisting the grace of God, and the grace of God is about unmerited favor. It's We don't have to earn it. It just is there, and all one has to do is to step into it, and to do whatever is necessary, to say what is ever is necessary in order to get there. But in taking that path, if you're not true to yourself in that path, you're not going to complete the journey, because
Absolutely.
the universe knows what you don't know.
And that's the crazy thing. Deborah just made a comment. She says, I always got scolded in school for daydreaming. I would travel in my daydreams and it was amazing. They stopped us as children from using our imaginations. And that's exactly what they do. They squash it.
Yeah, yeah. And daydream is one of the most powerful things that people can do. I
Yep.
was a daydreamer at school, and I remember looking out the window and sitting there daydreaming. And the next thing, a board duster clanged against my head, and it was a nun saying, "You're not paying attention."
Oh,
And my
yep.
mom used to tell me as well, "You're such a daydreamer," And I said, "Well, I like going out there into the universe." Well, I didn't say that to her at the time, but I said, "I just like to sit and think."
Mm-hmm.
There's no,
Yep. It's definitely there are two different aspects to the daydreaming. There's one used for escapism and one used for growing, right? Learning and growing and manifesting. Um, and both are successful tools, right?
yeah,
Because there are times when, unfortunately, and this goes back to, Cindy saying, how do people not see like SRA? And even on the mild side of SRA is, and I consider this, say, an SRA, for those of you who don't know, is satanic ritual abuse. And there are massively um, devastating extremes. And then there are things that I think are the same thing, but smaller. And that would be like child abuse within the family, or even just being molested by a neighbor, a relative, or whatever. This is all the same spectrum to me, right? And so what I was going to say is, when children are being physically abused, they tend to disappear in their imagination, right? And it saves them. It actually saves them. So, Or you hear about people that are in solitary confinement. They're like, well, they can't take away my thoughts, right? It's uh, it's just something that is uh, uh hopefully you don't create a soul fracture and split. You know, some people that can't do that can create multiple identities, right? And that can be troublesome. But if you can continue to stay attached to your soul and daydream from that space, I suppose. I don't know where I'm going with this. It just popped in my head. So
Uh, Daydreaming is very important. And you say daydreaming can be an escape. It's not only an escape from, and it's an escape to.
mhm.
So what the daydreamer is thinking about is the future they want to have experience. They're not thinking about the experience they're having now because they don't want to think about it. They want to think about the experience they'd like to have. So they're escaping to something. And often that escape to something will actually help you to escape. It's the route you take to escape.
Mhm.
Now, today I posted on my Facebook page, and people can go have a look at it. It's a little picture with rectangles on it, and it's all you can see are the rectangles, and it says go into soft focus, go into soft. Um, I can't remember they use, but I understand the term as soft focus,
Mhm.
and that's how you activate the pineal gland to be able to see what you don't see.
Yep.
And what's actually on that little picture are little circles, many circles. And when you go into soft focus, you see the circles. But when you in hard focus, you don't see the circles.
Yep. Right.
And it's the ability to see what you're not seeing. And the way to not see is to use your imagination, go into soft focus, daydream, and allow that because the information's there.
I love that. That's exactly what I was going to say. As I was interrupting you, I apologize for that. Um, there's a picture that I recently posted as well. It's and it's like my cover photo, and it's these colored rings, right? And within that, that's like I had somebody I had somebody named Armand. Actually, he makes these pictures of people's essences, right? He can read people, and anyway, he did that. And when you go into soft focus, you receive messages, right? And it's like messages like you can go in and get messages from your own soul, or people do these drawings or creations that tell a story, and that's another way of going into your imagination and allowing information just to come in, going into a soft focus, going into a relaxation, and just allow it to come in. It's everything tells a story. Everything around us tells a story. And we don't see that. It's not
Yeah,
like there's a book that comes with everything around us, right? But they all have stories.
yeah. And an important part of thinking is not to judge
Yeah.
or evaluate anything you're thinking about.
Hmm.
Because when you begin to judge your thoughts, you disallow your thinking ability. So if you're thinking thoughts of, sex or drugs and rock and roll and bad, so-called bad thoughts, and you disallow them, you actually are disallowing your thoughts. So what you just simply do is say, I don't have to think about those things. I
Yeah.
can think about whatever I want to think about.
Yeah.
But disallowing one's thoughts will inhibit one's consciousness. Because if that thought is there, it's in your subconscious mind. And disallowing the subconscious mind is not going to help your subconscious mind. What you want to do is filter your God consciousness into your subconscious mind. Okay, and that by taking responsibility for your thinking, your thoughts, your imagination, your faith, and putting that back into the subconscious mind so that you become subconsciously competent at thinking.
I love that. And one of the things that I did when I was learning how to, be still, right? And not always be in mental looping. When I was learning how to really be still and something would come up, instead of just pushing it away, some people say, oh, just push it away, ignore it. And when I see it come up, I say, okay, for thank you for expressing yourself to me. I'll get back to you. Right now, I'm focusing on something else, right? These are just little things because I didn't want any piece of me to think that I was ignoring it or doing away with it, or, because when we're healing and integrating all these pieces, so much comes up, right? And a lot of things we don't want to see. But sometimes, Colin, there's going to be those holographic inserts or that alien machinery that's put into the body to start to visualize or take you off track. So how does somebody begin to discern that the thought isn't even their own? And I know this is something we've talked about, but I think it's a good time to bring it up again. When something pops up and it's maybe not a good thing, uh, or and I suppose that would be judging, but it's like, how do you know that that is a thought not from you but from somebody else?
Yeah, well, I've been through that process, and what I did is I began to journal my thoughts
Mhm.
and examine where did this thought come from, uh, and whether I agreed with that thought. Well, first of all, trace where it came from. Whose thought was that? Was that my thought, or was that somebody? And in the beginning, it was all about the stuff I was thinking, of the stuff that was taught to me, indoctrinated inside me. They weren't my own thoughts. I had to be jolted out of this reality system by a really way out experience with my higher self going into into the universe, into other planets and stars and time system. So that gave me a kind of a shock, to actually begin to think again and to feel again. And when I started to think about the power of thinking and the power of emotions, I had to go almost like to kindergarten school and started writing down my thoughts. And I was shocked to see what I was thinking about during the day, and how many times my thoughts were about my feelings. So I was thinking my feelings, I wasn't feeling my feelings. And a lot of my thoughts were judgmental. A lot of my thoughts were um, prejudice. And so when I began to really look at my thoughts, I thought, wow, this is disgusting. Who is this person? That was me. And so I had to own up to a lot of my failings, a lot of my prejudices, my wrong thinking, and and it was very difficult because you know people have no idea how indoctrinated they become with prejudices, and they have wrong perspectives and wrong perceptions about many things. So they become jealous and greedy and lustful and all these things that they don't want to be, simply because they're thinking somebody else's thoughts.
Yep.
And these thoughts have been indoctrinated in them, and it's been indoctrinated them through a system that is basically satanic.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
that's
think this, Catherine is saying it's taken her so long to find her thoughts, so much mess in my head. And I want to know if we were all implanted at some point. So this is answering your question. Um, yeah, they're satanic. I think that, and when you understand that there are demonics that control not only our pillars of society, but they go even further into, they're the ones that have taken over our spiritual gates.
yeah,
And so, understanding that and understanding the indoctrination isn't just from our immediate um, structures. We were a quarantined planet. So, and we were stuck in a reincarnation cycle. We're not stuck anymore. We have choices now, which is a good thing, right? So this is why we're seeing a lot more souls coming in now, because they're like, oh my gosh, we can actually go in and we can actually like complete a cycle is should we choose, but we were really trapped. So every time we came back, from my understanding, Catherine, we would come back and get, you know, imprinted with the miasma, the planetary miasma, uh, from that moment you were born all the way back, right? Uh, so, and then when you would come in again, and do you see what I'm saying? Like you would just keep getting whammies. I call them whammies. Like,
Yeah. And a lot of my thoughts weren't even from this lifetime. I began
right.
to recognize thoughts that came from other lifetimes, and emotions as well that came from other
Yeah.
lifetimes. So it's not just what happens to us in this lifetime, it's what we carry through with us
Mhm.
through our DNA, because we come from a long line of DNA contributors
Mhm.
to the person that's alive now. It goes back thousands of years.
Yeah.
And all of that information, DNA's information, it's a program. A program is just information. And it's all that information that we carry in our bodies that is converted into our thoughts if we allow it. But because we indoctrinated here, we think that the only way to think is the way that I've been taught to think.
Mhm.
But think differently. Think
Exactly.
about the things you're not thinking about, and then you'll find what thinking about is really all about.
And from different perspectives, right? Because, and you mentioned, past, feelings, emotions, these kinds of things came from other lifetimes lived. One of the things we are so powerful. Like, there aren't even words to express how powerful we are. We actually have the power, and I've done it, and I've felt uh, my own self change, and I see it in session work all the time. You want to know how to pull information and make changes? Say, okay, who am I in my ninth dimensional self? What life did I live there? And how can I pull those qualities and aspects of myself into my now self? It's
Yep,
amazing because you can do it.
yep,
And over and over and over again, you can choose how you're streaming who you are.
that's right.
And there's and again, I'll go back to my friend Armand. He can like see these. That's like his specialty, right? But he can help people like see, because sometimes people need like something written down, like in front of them, like, who was I? Who am I? Where am I even did I even come from the stars? Or am I always here? Right? People have these questions. A lot of most earth seeds don't have those questions because they know they're not from the stars, right? But all the star seeds, the indigos, they're like, where am I from? What planets have I been to? Where are my stars? Where's my family? Right? So, but we're so powerful. It's not just our thoughts, it's our beingness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our thoughts actually change our DNA,
Mm-hmm.
because you are probably somebody who your forefathers imagined, somewhere in your genealogy you had a woman thinking, this is the kind of person I'd like to have incarnate here, and she imagined this, and out you popped,
Yeah.
because she put that information, that thought energy, into her DNA,
Yeah.
and that DNA eventually produced you.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
Just think how powerful that is, that we are creating our reality through our thoughts and imagination and our emotions.
It puts a whole new twist on uh, pregnant with thoughts, right? People use that I'm pregnant with all these thoughts. Um, and when somebody, I've noticed this about the female body. I don't know if males can do this, but a female is wanting a baby, or thinking about having a baby, and she can actually skip menstrual cycles and her body will act as if it's pregnant. It's the
Yes.
most curious thing. I,
Yeah.
I've never seen any, I've never heard stories of anyone actually getting pregnant, but definitely pregnant with the idea, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I've seen that as well, and I've come across people who've had that. Yeah, that and it's really just taking responsibility for our thinking and begin to explore, write down your thoughts. What am I thinking? Then think about what am I not thinking about?
Yeah.
Because it's probably the things that I'm not thinking about that will be the truth behind what I'm thinking. And like we look at this planet and what's happening on this planet, it's because everyone's been indoctrinated. They've been lied to. And people are thinking this terrible disease is a pandemic. Come on. You look at the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pandemic.
No.
It's just normal flu, and flu every year, the flu virus changes, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? It becomes something else. But and so we're always having these different flus coming
Yeah.
out because that's the nature of what viruses do. And we're just having another virus, and the number of deaths doesn't support this whole pandemic idea.
No. I think that well, I'm pretty sure that the flu miraculously disappeared, right? So we don't have the flu anymore. The cases for flu are down. So it's the same thing they did with polio. That what they did is they decided to just change the name of it, right? Um, because they needed to, and because they can, and
Yeah,
because we all go, wow, look, polio is completely eradicated. No, it's not. And it's not only not eradicated, they're continuing to run tests on whom they claim are uh, basically deplorables, humans that don't matter, and go
yeah,
to the countries that they're running these tests on, and see and see what they're doing to the people there. It's really disgusting. It's really, really disgusting. You think human trials aren't happening? Please. It's really terrible. It's where all of these viruses come from. Nothing has an opportunity to like run its course because they keep it alive and mutating.
yeah, yeah. And it's on this planet, it's a big pharma that's really taken over the control of a lot of our lives,
Uh-huh.
especially in our health. There was a time when you could buy, uh, marijuana, or what's the other word for it? It's,
Cannabis,
yeah, cannabis, but hemp.
hemp. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hemp was one of the most widely produced and used substances on our planet. It was used for creating cotton, was used for making hemp bags. It was used in all kinds of, used for building, it strengthens bricks. And then suddenly in the 40s, there was this ban on hemp because it was so useful, because it was so good for people. And so they had to ban it because it would replace all of the pharmaceuticals that they were producing, which were artificial forms of hemp,
Mm-hmm.
drugs,
Yeah,
they call
because they need to make money off of it.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this natural drug that exists on our planet called marijuana is being suppressed. And it's we're told that it's the worst thing people can do is to smoke marijuana. But hemp has many functions other than just smoking it. You
Mm-hmm.
can use it for the sinew of the tree is very good for paper milling. And it grows, it produces 10 times more crop than most other trees. So, as a paper producer, it would be a wonderful thing on this planet. But now we've got this control mechanism that we've got to escape, not have hemp. But I believe in the USA there are quite a few states that have now unbanned hemp, and they're starting to grow hemp again. And marijuana is not of itself evil. It's when people abuse it that it can be used for evil purposes. But
Well, and just like anything, I think that uh, it can create an addiction. And because we have not broken down fully broken down the black magic grids and the addiction grids in the matrix, this is how they infiltrate some of the really good things that would benefit
yeah,
people, right? It's the Again,
yeah,
they
but
understand intention better than we do, right? They
yeah,
understand how to manipulate all this stuff.
yeah, but I mean, what are addictions? It's just a habitual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, many people are addicted to their thoughts.
Mm,
So they think the same things over and over and over again. They're addicted to an idea, and they believe that, what they've been told is right and it's real, and so they just keep thinking the same things. They are addicted. So what
mm.
do you do? Should we ban thinking?
Well,
I
that's what
mean,
they're trying to do.
well, that's how stupid that idea of banning something that is addictive. Because
Right.
some people will use it and abuse it, but the ones who abuse it are far less than the ones who can use it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've known a lot of people who've used marijuana for medicinal purposes. I
Mm-hmm.
know people who use marijuana for if they want to sleep well, rather than taking a sleeping pill, they smoke a joint or it's half a joint,
Mm-hmm.
and it puts them to sleep. So why ban something if it's addictive when we are all addicted to something?
Mm-hmm.
Some people are addicted to thoughts, some people are addicted to coffee, some people are addicted to certain cold drinks and
Mm-hmm.
sodas and uh,
Habitual. It's habitual. Yeah.
yeah, that they say use the same language over and over, so they become addicted to words, so they don't think about what they're saying. They just spew out the same stuff they spewed out before. I've met some guys who this is particularly with my brother. We would go out in the evening, and he would say the same thing, tell the same stories, and he was very popular. People loved him because he'd go out and he had this whole bunch of jokes and stories that he had stored up, and he just kept repeating the same things over and over again. Now, I knew it because I'd been with him several times or many times, so I recognized that that's what he was doing. But new people loved it because he was like a showman. He would go into a pub or whatever, and he would entertain everybody with all these stories, but they were
Mm-hmm.
the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what people are like. They get addicted to thoughts, they get addicted to ideas, and they don't think about the things that they're not thinking about.
Right.
And when you're only thinking about the things you're thinking about, then you're missing a whole vista and a panoramic view of the universe.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
I've kind of incubated a lot of thoughts in my mind about what is the sun? Where does it come from? Why is it there? Does it produce heat? If it produces heat, how does it produce heat? Where does this heat come from? This light that comes from the sun, why does it create shadows? What are the shadows? You know, is shadows the absence of light? Because the light doesn't disappear just because there's shadows. There's still light,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still shadows. And then you start thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and it just expands, and you begin to realize that there are so many things we don't think about.
This is how rabbit holes get dug, Colin. Let's see. Anthony is posing. He says the question was posed today whether we program children from birth. And I think that goes back to us saying, the mother thinking about having the baby, and that gets programmed into the DNA. So
Yeah, yeah.
programmed.
No, I know a family that who don't school their children. They believe in the idea of no school rather than homeschool. And so their children don't go to school, and they just educate their children at home, not according to any curriculum,
Hmm.
but what the children are interested in. So they get the children interested in various subjects by, stimulating their minds with questions.
Yes.
child asks a question, then they get them to think about that question, then go research that question, and they start, and these kids are so well adjusted and well developed beyond their age, because they are more mature than the people of their own age generally, because they've learned to think for
For
themselves.
themselves. There's a school, I don't know why it's escaping me. It starts with an S. It's a way of teaching, and it's exactly that. It's called unschooling, basically. Some friends of mine are opening a place up here in Pierce County. So it's down south from me, but there's only like maybe a couple of schools here in Washington like that. But it's literally called unschooling, and it starts with an S, the way of thinking that is. But um, the children are very well adjusted. They don't sit down and have curriculum, right? They get to go. You want to sit by the creek today? Is that what you want to do? You want to skip pebbles? Okay, go do it, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's like,
And then
we're,
talk about it afterwards. What did you experience when
yeah,
you were, did you see grass? What kind of grass was this? Well, I don't know. Well, go find out.
yeah.
You know,
Was it
what color?
bluegrass? Yeah. So
Yeah.
much. There's so much. It's so curious. And, you know, I know my little Violet, she loves to flip over rocks with her dad and look for potato bugs and slugs, right? And so, like, always that's like, can we go flip over rocks? I want to go look for these things, and she asked the questions, why is it like that? Or how many legs does that have? Or why does it roll up? Or how come this is sticky? And gosh, we haven't done that in a long time. We need to get back on that. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the attitudes I have on my Facebook page, on my website, I've got the attitudes of mastery, and one of them is curiosity.
Mm,
When you have if you lose your curiosity, you will never understand. You
yeah.
have to keep asking questions, because the questioning mind is the mind that will uh, receive the answers that will enlighten the person. And, and, and when your mind is enlightened, your soul is enlightened. And that light is very real light. It's powerful light. It's life force energy, and it will prolong your life. It will, uh, provide energy for your body. It will provide energy into the things you do and say, and you learn how to use that energy and create momentum with that energy to be able to do amazing things.
Beautiful.
So it's asking the questions that enlighten the mind. It's not just receiving information, because receiving information is what our school system does. It puts information into the minds of people that they don't really need, or they will hardly ever remember.
Yeah.
When you have a natural, curious person asking questions, that information will remain with them,
Mm-hmm.
because they are enlightened.
Yep. That's the true idea of an enlightened being. There's uh I think by age 12, and this is why it's so important for them to indoctrinate our children, by age 12, we should fully be embodied of our soul. Mm, most of us now are having a rude awakening at, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even, right? Going, what? I was supposed to have my soul connection by age 12. And so then you got a lot of catching up to do, right? So anyway, yeah, unschooling is what's going to create the enlightenment. I think that's
And the biggest problem on this planet, frankly, is ignorance. People just don't think anymore.
mm-mm,
They think within a limited band of information, and they can't think outside of that. Now, when you've been to a planet and you've been with beings to 10 feet tall with feathers in their body, and they behave differently and they act differently, their planet's different from what you experience. And they tell you not to think bad, negative thoughts, because they don't want that to be brought into their consciousness, because their consciousness creates the environment. So you have to stay in neutrality and just think loving and kind and peaceful thoughts, because anything outside of that's going to destroy their environment.
Yeah,
which is consciousness. And if people, that's the kind of new thinking that people have to begin to understand if we want to change this planet. Because what we have here is a control system, and it's designed to control human beings. I'm afraid that's what people are going to have to face up to. But having said that, they can think and feel their way out of that problem.
I agree with you. That's exactly spot on. What we think about, we bring about. And the first thing we need to do is understand that our thoughts are not our own, and it's time to think beyond that. What are we not seeing? And it's actually making people very angry. And I've been noticing even kind people are starting to get really pissed off because they're not able to get out of that mind construct. And so they think that anybody else that is out of the mind construct is trying to claim that they're better. Oh, you're better than me? Oh, you're more enlightened than me? No, this is not a race. This is not a this is no, there's nobody better than the next person. We're just, some people think different, and some of us just aren't there yet. We're not all the way out of the mind constructs. That's okay, and it's okay to even get out of the mind construct only to bring more soul embodiment, or more, I'll say, light body embodiment, because you could be working on your avatar, and so then you're going to get blocked up again, right? You just got stuff to work through. We all have stuff to work through. And,
Yeah,
it's like, let's meet each other where we're at, and be co-creators.
yeah. And we have to learn to take responsibility for ourselves and not for other people. We are not responsible for how other people feel and
Yeah,
think that's their sovereign right to do, to
that's
feel
right.
and think the way they want to. But we are only responsible. But the way the universe works, once you take care of your thoughts and emotions, then you will experience more people who think and feel the way you do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting how that works, right?
Uh,
I every day I wake up and I think to myself, I am a God sovereign cosmic being, right?
yeah,
And yeah, I, and I think uh, the more we know, the more responsibility we kind of hold with our light constructs, right? Um,
yeah.
and so, oh my
Oh,
gosh,
we forget how interrelated we really are,
yeah,
because probably many generations before, you know, one of your family members married one of my family members, and that produced a line of families, and you from the one line and I'm from the other line,
yeah,
so we are all really just one big family of humans.
hmm,
And we're not encouraged to understand that. We're not encouraged or taught to go look at our family trees. My cousin did that, and she found that she was related to royalty, you
yeah,
know.
wow, isn't that
And
amazing?
yeah, and I haven't gone beyond my great grandfather because the records are not available. But like my great grandfather was a tinker. And a tinker was a man who had a wheelbarrow, and he would wheel it around the countryside of Ireland. And he was a tinker in a place called in Ireland. What's it? I can't remember. But anyway, it's in the Leinster province. Um, and he would go around doing repairs and sewing up things for people, and repairing little things, and they would pay him, and that's how he earned a living.
That's
You know,
great.
when
Yeah.
my grandfather arrived in South Africa as a 14-year-old boy, he was illiterate. He couldn't read or write.
Mhm.
So
Amazing, isn't it? And
yeah, when you find out about the lineage that you have and how far back it goes, it gives one a perspective on just what the family of man is really all about, and how interrelated we all
yeah,
are, especially Europeans and people of one color or another. But even now with intermarriages, now the black people are becoming, relate to white people, and so you're having colored children, and I think that's great. I love
mhm,
this diversity on this planet, and we all the same thing, just with different expressions of that thing. It's like a diamond. It has many facets to it, and we're all just different facets of the same diamond. It's just one diamond. There's one family of mankind on this planet. And when we start thinking that way, that we're not separated from each other, we're not at war with each other, we don't have to war with each other, and it's only the kings and the queens and the governments that will drive us to fight one another. And that's crazy. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's a divide and conquer, right? Keeping
Yeah,
us pointing out anything that could possibly look different, feel different. They create all these aspects, and there's not any of us that are really
yeah,
all different. We all have the same constructs. We're all put together the same. It doesn't matter how you slice it and dice it. Like, we're all multidimensional, electromagnetic, angelic human beings. So
yeah, yeah.
it is
And
what
and
it is.
and our thinking can release that limited possibility that of our thinking, because thoughts will limit or expand your possibilities.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that just accepting this nonsense that goes on in this planet, this indoctrination and teaching, it limits our possibilities. And that's what they're trying to do now. Possibilities, improving your possibilities, having a higher quality of thought and emotions, higher standards and values, right attitudes towards, puts you on a different timeline, because timelines are just of, flows of electric energy supported by magnetic waves. So the electric waves supported by magnetic waves. Time doesn't exist. Our consciousness creates time, in a sense, really. When we think we're moving around, we're not moving around. It's our consciousness that's moving around. We're experiencing moving around through our consciousness. So we create the moving around through our consciousness. Now, let people think about that one.
I know. We'll be thinking about that when it looks like we're at our time. So I think we had a really, really
Oh,
fantastic conversation. I know, right? Like, I was like, I think we're going to keep talking, but looking at everything, we're definitely where we need to be in terms of conversation. We have a lot more to talk about. We're just gonna keep moving forward. We're pushing forward with really re-educating humanity in how powerful they are. Who are you? What are you capable of? And how can we change the planet? It sounds so daunting, but it's really not, right? You get enough of us, and we can make things happen. So
yeah.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening live today, and for everybody that will listen afterwards. We're so grateful for you, and we're sending you so much love. And Colin, I know you have some really fantastic teachings out there, and I know you're still bringing in a lot of the I'm not going to say, let's see, how to heal yourself basically too is coming into alignment with your teachings. So where can people find you?
Yeah, on my website, it's the writings of colinjoe.com.
I love it. The writings of colinjoe.com. And you guys can always find his inspirational messages on Facebook as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love it. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Colin.
it's been great chatting to you, and
Yeah,
thank you for leading us so well.
thank you. Thank you. I'll see you soon. I'll talk to everybody. We'll see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.